Look at your hands for a second. The line on your skin, the weight of your fingers, the room around you, it all feels solid, obvious, real. But the deeper we look into the logic of the universe, the more it stops feeling like a solid wall and starts looking like a very weak house of cards. Because hidden under everyday reality are paradoxes, little logical explanations that behave like the glitches in the code of the cosmos. They don't just confuse the scientists, they actually suggest that the way we see the reality might be fundamentally wrong. So in the next 10 minutes, I am going to walk you through the 5 universal paradoxes that quietly break the rules of space, time and existence. By the end of this video, you will never look at a star, a clock or even your own life story in quite the same way again. And if you have seen my video, what happens when time stops, you already know. Once you start messing with the edges of the time, reality stops behaving nicely. Today we are going to push even harder and watch the simulation glitch. Let us start with a paradox that targets the most basic thing of all, the origin of information. Number 1. The Bootstrap Paradox, the information loop. Imagine you somehow invent a perfect time machine. You grab a modern copy of Shakespeare's collected works, all the plays, all the poems, and you travel back to the year 1600. You find William Shakespeare in a pub, drop the book on the table and say, "Hey Will, I love your work. Here you can use this as inspiration." Now Shakespeare takes this book into his home. He spends the next years copying every single word into his own handwriting, publishing them in his time. Centuries passed and eventually someone in the future makes that exact same book and you take back to the 1600 again. So now ask yourself, who actually wrote Shakespeare's plays? In one sense, Shakespeare did. He copied them. But every word he wrote came from that book you brought from the future. And that book only exists because Shakespeare had already written the plays. You have created what physicists call a bootstrap paradox. An object or a piece of information is sent back in time and becomes trapped in a loop with no clear beginning. It has no true origin, it is just there. This is not just a fun sci-fi story. It is a serious problem in time travel physics. If you allow certain kinds of time travel, you don't just get paradoxes about killing grandparents. You get information appearing without any cause. In reality, as we usually see it, it is a straight line of past, present and future. But the Bootstrap Paradox draws a perfect circle inside that line and asks, if reality is truly linear, how does a causeless circle exist inside it? It's like finding a file on your computer that was never created, never downloaded, never saved. It just exists on your hard drive. Either there is something deeply wrong with our idea of time, or the code of the universe allows self-created loops that our brains are not built to understand. Number 2. Olbers Paradox, the dark night. Now go from your computer to the night sky. Here is a paradox that hides in something so ordinary you have probably never questioned it. Why is the night dark? Back in the 18th and 19th centuries, astronomers like Heinrich Wilhelm Olbers asked a very simple question. If the universe really is endless and filled evenly with the stars, then no matter where you look, your line of sight should eventually hit a star. Add up the light from all of them and the night sky should be blindingly bright, almost as bright as the surface of the sun. But it is not. Most of the sky is just cold, empty darkness. This is Olbers Paradox. In an infinite, unchanging universe packed with stars, the night should not be dark. So why is it? The mind-blowing answer is that the darkness of the night is actually the evidence that the universe is not infinite in age and not static. It had a beginning and it is expanding. Because the universe started in a hot, dense state, the Big Bang, the light from the earliest stars and galaxies has been stretched as the space itself grows. Much of that ancient glow has shifted out of the visible light into infrared or microwaves, becoming radiation we can only detect with these special instruments. To human eyes, that means the sky stays dark, and that darkness is a sign that the universe has not existed forever and has a limited observable size. In other words, every time you look into the black of the night, you are actually seeing a glitch in the infinite universe idea. The darkness is not empty. It is a clue that points straight back to the birth of the everything. Number 3. The Fermi Paradox, the Great Silence. Speaking of everything, let us talk about neighbors. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old. It contains hundreds of billions of galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars and likely trillions of planets. Statistically, it feels almost certain that many of those planets should last life and at least some should have intelligent civilization. So here is the paradox framed by physicist Enrico Fermi. If the universe is that old and that big, where is everybody? We call this as the Fermi Paradox, the tension between the high chance of extraterrestrial civilizations and the complete lack of solid proof that any exist. There are lots of possible answers, but the two of the most haunting answers are the great filter and the dark forest idea. The great filter says maybe life is common, but something extremely hard happens between simple life and space traveling civilization. War, collapse, self-destruction, or some unknown barrier destroys most of the civilization out before they can spread. If that is true, then either we have already passed that deadly bottleneck or we have not even yet and it is waiting for us. The dark forest theory adds an even darker twist. Imagine the universe as a pitch black forest. Every civilization is a hunter with a flashlight. If you turn your light on, you show everyone exactly where you are, and maybe some hunters shoot anything that moves just to stay safe. In that kind of universe, the safest move is to stay silent. No messages, no giant lights, and no obvious megastructures. Suddenly, the strange silence of space stops being confusing and starts feeling intentional. Either there is hardly anyone out there, or everything out there is deliberately hiding. So the Fermi Paradox is not just where are the aliens. It is why does a universe that looks crowded on paper feel so empty in practice? Is the great silence a bug in our expectations or a terrifying feature of the cosmic survival game? Write down your thoughts in the comment section below. Number 4. The Grandfather Paradox, the kill switch. Let us go back to time travel and push directly on the idea of cause and effect. The classic time travel nightmare is the Grandfather Paradox. You build a time machine, go back to a time before your parents were born, and for some reason you decide to kill your own grandfather. If you succeed, your parent is never born. You are never born, which means you never build the time machine and you never go back to kill your grandfather. The timeline collapses in on itself. You can't both exist and not exist in the same single history. This is more than just a sci-fi story. It shows a deep clash between certain kinds of time travel and the way we think logic should work. If the past is fixed, you should not be able to change it. But if you can't change it, how is time travel meaningful at all? One of the cleanest escape routes physicists talk about is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. In this state, reality does not force a single timeline. Instead, whenever something can go in a different ways, the universe effectively branches, creating multiple coexisting realities. So when you go back and kill your grandfather, you don't erase your own timeline. You create or move into a different branch where your grandfather dies and you are never born. But in your original branch where he lived and you built the time machine, you still exist. In this view of reality, you avoid logical errors not by fixing them, but by splitting. Every paradox is solved by making another world. It is like computer that hits an error and instead of crashing, it quietly opens a parallel copy of the program where the error does not happen. If many worlds is real, then the universe might be handling paradoxes by constantly duplicating itself behind the scenes. Number 5. The Simulation Paradox, the final boss. Now for the final boss of existential headaches. What if the behind the scenes is not just splitting timelines, but actual software? Philosopher Nick Bostrom famously argued that any civilizations ever becomes advanced enough to run detailed simulations of entire universes, including conscious beings inside them, then one of three things must be true. Option 1. Almost no civilizations ever reach that level. Option 2. They reach it but choose not to run such simulations. Option 3. They reach it and run a lot of them. If option 3 is true, then the number of simulated universes could easily be billions or trillions, while there is only one base physical reality. Statistically, that would mean it is far more likely that we are living in one of the simulations than in the one original universe. That is the simulation paradox. If reality is real in the way we usually think, then advanced civilizations probably won't create countless simulations of it. But if they do create them, then reality stops being unique and becomes just another file in the folder. Once you start thinking this way, certain cosmic rules begin to look suspicious. For example, the speed of light acts like a a hard limit on how fast information can travel, similar to a cap in a video game engine. Quantum randomness can look like a random number generator. Vacuum fluctuations start looking like a background noise in a system. None of this proves we are in a simulation, but it raises a disturbing question. If reality was truly basic and original, why does it behave so much like a set of rules? And if there are rules, who and what wrote them? So what do all of these paradoxes add up to? The Bootstrap Paradox shows information appearing without a clear origin. Olbers Paradox turns the simple darkness of the night sky into evidence that the universe had a beginning and it is expanding. The Fermi Paradox shows us a universe that feels statistically full of life but observationally silent. The Grandfather Paradox attacks the idea of a single self-consistent timeline and pushes us towards branching realities. And the Simulation Paradox asks whether those branching realities are being rendered inside something bigger than physics itself. These are not just puzzles on a whiteboard. They are the places where human logic runs up against the edge of something larger and error messages appearing at the boundary of what our minds can easily model. Reality might not be broken. It might be just stranger and bigger than our current operating system can handle. So which of these paradoxes bothers you the most? Is it the idea of your entire night sky is secretly shouting the universe had a beginning? Is it the quiet terror of great silence? Or is it the possibility that your character inside the cosmic simulation watching this video from inside the code? Let me know in the comments which paradox keeps you up at the night and what you want me to explore next. And if your brain is already hurting, that's a good sign you are doing it right. If you want more cosmic headaches, check out this video right here, what happens when time stops. Because once you start pulling at reality's small problems, you realize the whole fabric might be far stranger than it looks.